All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we have a fantastic one that I hope that you guys are going to learn a lot from. And this is how to kill hunger in prep. This is something that I have had to utilize a lot in my own process, given that I have now been dieting and in prep for 26, 27 weeks, something like that, since the beginning of March. And it is now the end of August. So this is something that I have had to personally implement a lot of these. Not just in this prep, but in previous diets, previous preps, and also too with any clients that I take through the process of trying to lose fat and get leaner. Inevitably, you're going to be running into hunger. So how do we manage it best? Let's go right into the points, starting with number one. We're gonna have a fun little fill in the blank session for ourselves today. Number one, most important thing that I can recommend right at the start is to keep yourself busy. One of the worst things that I did in my 2022 prep was when I got deeper into it, I told myself that I couldn't mentally handle a lot of the things that I was doing. So I would push a lot of stuff off and say, I'll deal with that when I'm done with prep. Don't get me wrong, big decisions shouldn't be made when you are deep in the throes of contest prep. However, when you are talking about your daily proceedings and the things that you would be doing to advance your life forward in a general daily, weekly, monthly sense, you want to have things that you're doing that you're responsible for. Because the more time that you have that is just lulled around, waiting for your next meal, the harder that the diet is going to be on yourself. So make sure that you have things that you can distract yourself with. And a lot of times that even looks like maybe spending time with friends and family, maybe doing things that you would normally do. Maybe there's certain events that you can go to where you don't have to eat food or things like that. And you can just enjoy being there and enjoy being present rather than always just sat around waiting for that timer to tick so that you can eat your next meal. You want to make sure that you're keeping yourself busy. Number two is going to be your daily caloric structure. Now, what do I mean by that? Throughout the course of your day, you're going to have different ways that you can allocate the nutrients that you have at your disposal on your plan. So if that means that you have a coach and he's writing out a structured meal plan for you, have a discussion with them about how you can be planning your day based on how your hunger cues are going throughout the day. So what that would potentially look like is maybe opting for something like a front load versus a back load in regards to how your day is set up. A lot of this also has to do with what time of the day you're training. Because if you train earlier in the day, you are going to want to make sure that you have nutrients, particularly some carbs and a little bit of your fats pre-workout and post-workout, not only to make sure that you're utilizing those to the very best of your ability to preserve muscle during the diet, but also to make sure that you have good training sessions. You protect the quality of your training sessions, you will protect the muscle that you have built over the course of the off season. So make sure that if you are training earlier on in the day, you have some nutrients that are readily available from a carb perspective before and after. Now, if you train later in the day, you potentially would be looking at something that's closer to the back load, which is where you have much lighter meals throughout the course of your morning and leading into the afternoon. And then as cortisol starts to decrease and your hunger starts to go up as the day goes on, you'll have some more tools at your disposal from a calorie perspective that you can then use to funnel into pre-training, post-training, and ideally even pre-bed, because a lot of times a carb heavy-ish meal, nothing that we eat from a meal perspective in prep is heavy per se, especially when you get deeper into it, but something that has some form of carbs in it is going to be able to help you preserve and protect the quality of sleep that you're getting. So you want to make sure that your days are stacked in accordance with when your hunger is the worst and making sure that you have solid meals that you can eat around that time. Number three is going to be one that many people sleep on, And this is going to be to nail your hydration and electrolytes. These are massively important when it comes to your hunger cues. Most of the time, even if you're not dieting, dehydration will disguise itself as hunger. So if you just go and drink 16, 32 ounces of water, all of a sudden those cravings seem to disappear, especially when you combine it with adequate sodium, potassium, and magnesium intake. So if you have all of those stacked up throughout your day, so you're taking in an ample amount of water. Now what that would generally look like for someone like myself, who's currently sitting at about 180 pounds, I'll drink about 1.5 gallons of water a day. And then sodium and potassium intake will vary based on the individual, how much muscle you have and things of that nature. So be mindful of those things, because if you don't stay on top of hydration, you will experience a lot more hunger just from the sake of being dehydrated. So you want to make sure that that is going in as much as you can. Around your meals as well, highly recommend making sure that you drink a big glass of water right before the meal, and ideally you have water that you can drink during the meal as well. This will help with making your stomach feel like it's full, even if it isn't necessarily, because you're not getting a lot of food at a certain point. All right, number 4, what are we not sleeping on? Don't sleep on, and our answer here is sleep. Do not sleep on sleep. Because when it comes to the quality of your sleep, how long you're sleeping, making sure that you have a regular routine, that your circadian rhythm is set so that you're generally waking up and going to bed around the same time each day, this massively affects your hunger hormones. So ghrelin, the hunger hormone that's going to be telling you, hey, you know, I need something. You got to give me a little bit more food here. That's going to be a lot worse throughout your day when you are sleep deprived. So you need to make sure that sleep is something that you are consistently prioritizing, especially as you get deeper in and you're just going to be at a position where you're going to be more stressed out. And you're going to want to make sure that you're absolutely maximizing your number one tool for recovery, which is sleep. Not just to make sure that you hold on to that muscle all throughout the course of the fat loss phase, but to also make sure that the next day you're not all ornery and, oh my gosh, I'm hungry 24/7. That is going to be something that you can massively avoid if you make sure that you prioritize your sleep. So don't sleep on sleep. Number 5 is going to be a very fun trick that I have utilized over the years, and that is to both volumize and chew your food. Now I know that that sounds silly in theory, but listen through this. Volumizing your food is going to look like having things that you can easily add a lot of either food itself or water for little to no calories. So examples of this would be to swap to vegetables that feel bigger, things like zucchini and squash. Stuff that makes you feel like you're eating more food, even though pound for pound calorie wise, you're actually not increasing any higher than your typical daily intake would generally look like. So focus on that, and then think about with those things too, you can take that to an extreme and it ends up becoming detrimental. So do this with caution unless it is things like water. Now this has been a freaking game changer for me, guys, because when it comes to meals like cream of rice and oats, I'll scale the amount of water that I'm putting into the meal and allow it to cook for long enough that effectively the oats or the rice are soaking up more water and it feels like more food. It looks like a bigger bowl. It takes me a little bit longer to eat. So that also, it goes into chewing your food. This is not going to only help you digest your food better because you're releasing digestive enzymes when you go through the process of moving your mouth and chewing your food and not just sucking it straight down. So to not just avoid the GI issues, but also to make sure that you're actually tasting your food, you're enjoying it, you're taking breaks in between in your meal to set the fork down, to take a swig of water, and prolonging that period which you're actually eating is going to give your body enough time to have the signal sent from your brain to your stomach telling you that you've eaten. Because if you mow the food down in 10 minutes, I guarantee you're gonna get to the end of that meal and you're gonna be sad because you're still gonna be probably just as hungry, if not hungrier, than when you started that meal. But if you take your time with it, you're slow, and you give your brain enough time to catch up with what your stomach is doing, you will tell yourself, and it will tell you, okay, like we've gotten some food in now, and it will start to release some of those chemicals and those hormones that are responsible for digesting the food and letting you know that, you've eaten. So make sure that you're doing that. And then number 6 is going to be to make sure to stay in your lane. No, stay in your routine. So that means that you know what's coming on a day-to-day basis. Generally speaking, we as humans are creatures of habit, especially when you get deeper down and you get to lean levels of body fat. You are going to really want to make sure that you stay into your daily routine. This tells you, you know what to expect throughout the course of the day, and it keeps your brain from having to sort out all of the different mental questions that might go into when the days look differently. So that means stay in your routine, not just from what you're doing from a time perspective, but also staying on whatever plan that you have set. Even if you're not on a structured meal plan, I would highly recommend when you get towards the back half of prep, have staple things that you are constantly eating. You don't want to always be chopping and changing and trying to always figure out what the best use for your macros is. Find meals that work well for you, stick to those things, and have them around the same time so that you know, and you're not spending all of this mental energy either fixated on the food that you could be having or fixated on trying to get the most out of the food that you are having, driving your food focus up further and making hunger worse. Number 7, and this might be the most important piece of this all, that is going to be to build a resilient mind. Build a resilient mind. So this is something that takes time, but this goes into the broader fact of you will experience hunger during prep. It's a natural part of getting to extremely low body fat levels. So understand that that's coming and be willing to accept that. Be willing to go through the process of, this is my life. This is what I'm doing. And embracing the fact that you're doing this from an enjoyment perspective. Nobody's put a gun to your head and told you that you need to go prep, that you need to win a show. For most of you, it's going to be something that you're going to be doing casually, and it's not going to be pertaining to your livelihood either. So from a seriousness perspective, make sure that you know that that's coming. Hunger is coming, and being okay with that. Understand that hunger is your friend, that it's not, doesn't mean that something is broken or wrong with the process, or that it's a problem that you need to fix, where every time that you feel like you're hungry, you need to go find a 0-calorie drink or hit yourself with another caffeine hit. Those things are going to end up just causing more problems later down the stretch than they actually solve, especially when you're reliant on them, because then if you ever don't get them, then things are even worse and you haven't built the mind to be able to handle situations like that. So guys, these are the 7 most important things that I utilize in order to kill hunger during prep. Was there anything massively that I missed? Did I nail the whole list? If there's anything that you can think of that I should have included, drop it down into the comments. And if you have not already, make sure to like the video if it gave you any help, and then also to subscribe to the channel if you're new to continue to follow along with this prep process. 6 weeks out from show number 1 of the season, so we're very excited. It's going to be a long competition season as well, so I'll take you guys through that whole process of what it looks like in between shows, the peaking process, all of that will be documented, so make sure to follow along. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you in the next one.